Hello and welcome to the Rupert Resources presentation at the New Orleans Investment Conference for 2020. My name is James Withall. I'm the CEO of the company, and over the next 30 or 40 minutes I'm going to give you a rundown of why Rupert Resources is a very interesting investment opportunity in the gold exploration space. This front cover of the presentation says an awful lot. We own, on the left-hand side, our Pahtavaara permitted mine and mill that we acquired for just $2.5 million back in 2016, right at the bottom of the depths of the gold market when people really weren't looking. On the right-hand side is an exploration rig in about 20 kilometers away from that mill. And over the last 3 years since acquiring that asset, we've been pushing forward with a very systematic approach to regional exploration that has led to a number of significant discoveries being made in quite a short order, and you're going to hear about those a lot in the presentation. So, our strategy as a company, we are targeting multi-million ounce gold discoveries. We have a permitted mill, which is our way of unlocking the value in those discoveries we're making. So hopefully you'll find the next half an hour very interesting and worthwhile. So usual cautionary looking statement, I will be making some forward-looking statements, so please read this. So some highlights about it. I talked about that permitted mill right at the beginning, but where are we? We're in northern Finland here. You can see our Pahtavaara Project and the map on the right-hand side. It's up right in the north of Finland. You'll have heard of maybe the Kittila mine, that's owned by Agnico Eagle Mines, and Kevitsa maybe, that's owned by Boliden. And there's also a very spectacular nickel copper PGM discovery made by Anglo American up there called Sakatti. We also have a number of other assets in the portfolio in central Finland and also in Canada, but certainly our Pahtavaara project is our absolute flagship. Finland is a fantastic jurisdiction to be working in. It's safe, it's secure, it's very easy to do the work, and certainly with this tumultuous year that we've been through with COVID-19, Finland as a country has been able to manage it very well, and that has actually allowed us to carry on working relatively normal in country. So much for myself and some of the other managers that would like to get there more often, but still, our team is based there. They've been doing some fantastic work. So my background, for those who maybe haven't come across me before, I was previously a gold equity fund manager, and previous to that in the 1990s I was an exploration and mine geologist working in Western Australia. But I think it's important you understand that my background was in gold equities fund management at Baker Steel Capital Managers, one of the most successful fund management groups, specialist fund management groups in this sector in the gold equity space. And why is that important? Because I'm obviously an investor in Rupert Resources myself, but also it means that I feel that I understand better what investors are looking to get out of investing in something like this in an exploration company. We run this company pretty much similar to an investment fund, really. We have a portfolio of assets. It's all about capital allocation, allocating the funds that are provided to us by the shareholders through equity financings to the highest possible returning assets that we own inside the company, and making sure that we continue to focus on that, because our whole aim here, our strategy is written at the top. We're trying to demonstrate what is the geological and economic potential of all our projects. That's quite a broad term, but really that is what we're trying to deliver. But the other important point is that we're obviously trying to maximize the return on shareholders' capital. So the big metric for me is shareholders' capital invested, the multiple that we can make on that in the equity valuation of the company, and people recognizing that we're looking for significant projects. So what have we done and what have we done? So we have made multiple new gold discoveries in the past year. Certainly we're very well funded for at least the next 18 months. At the beginning, 2020 started out well for us. Agnico Eagle, well-known company, took a strategic investment into the company in February. They took a 9.9% stake for just $13.1 million at the time, and that didn't come about overnight. They've been looking at the approach we're taking. They've been well established in Finland for many years. They looked at our approach, how we're doing exploration, and the success we're having. They liked that and saw it as a good opportunity. So again, a bit more about Finland and why you should care about this part of the world. I think it is now basically ranked one of the most attractive in the top three countries for areas for investment attractiveness. And why is that important? It's because it's I guess I've invested through the gold sector for a long time, and for many years, a lot of the places where there was gold exploration being done were in areas that had quite high political risk. I would consider that Finland has a very low political risk profile, which makes it, and it's a very transparent place to do business. It's very safe, and you've got a very skilled workforce. Combine that with really good geology that hasn't properly been explored, and I think that's a theme that you're going to get across if you listen to any of the other Finnish exploration companies in the market at the moment. It's a very exciting area that's has been underexplored, and that's really the reason why we are making these discoveries, because it just hasn't seen the focus of some of the more established parts of the world. So a couple of other images on here. Top right, well, all our if I look at the results we've been putting out as a company over the last 18 months, really since January 19, we dominate effectively the top 30 gold intercepts, Rupert Resources as a company, and Finland overall dominates that top 30 as well. All our intercepts are all those ones in gold there, and you see a really significant amount of them, effectively 7 out of the top 10. But then how have we actually done that? Again, many of you attending this conference know the sector very well and understand this chart at the bottom, that really we've been through probably 8 to 9 years of quite a tough market since 2013-14, and it just really sort of coming out of the back of that now in terms of the gold price and the recovery, and people looking to gold really as an investment again. But that's, if we'd only just started the business today and raised money today, we wouldn't be in the position we are today. The people behind Rupert Resources have been long-term investors in this sector, and they know to try and acquire assets right at the bottom of the market, just like in 2015, 2016, when they were looking around Finland trying to acquire something because they thought it was an attractive place to work, and they've been looking in that country for many years. And so that's what they did, acquired right at the bottom market, invested significant money in the order of $35 million before this year has been invested into this company, and that is what's driving the exploration discoveries we're making today. So I mentioned before, we have a very systematic approach that we do. It's about taking all that historical information. Finland as a country, again, is a good place to work because the government over many years invested a lot of money in good basic geological understanding of the country, whether it's geophysics or having people in the field doing mapping, and I'm trying to understand it. But I guess it's more of a data collection process and probably more of an academic approach at that stage, rather than what I'd call today, and what Rupert really does well, I think, is commercial exploration. So we also acquired a mine that had been run since 1996 through to 2014, and they had done some exploration about that, and they collected a lot of data. So we compiled all that historical information. We overlaid our own, detailed information that we needed to get on top of that, more geophysics, more understanding, really just bringing some of the best minds in this industry to help us understand the geological potential here, and then work out a way to explore properly, and then ultimately get on with reconnaissance and drill testing, and that's obviously reflected in the news releases we've been putting out recently, and the results from actually drills going into the ground. So obviously you can have that systematic approach, but you also need a very good team. We have a very strong board. I'm not going to go into all those positions right now, but a couple of names you might know on there. Mike Sutton, I've known him for I guess 15 years now, who's behind the discoveries of the South Mine Complex at Kirkton Lake, and me as a fund manager, I was very involved in investing in that time in Kirkton Lake Gold, It's a very exciting time to be involved with it. George Ogilvie, many of you may know, he's currently the CEO of Battle North Gold. He was also a CEO at Kirkland Lake for a while, has been involved in a number of companies, very strong mining engineer. So some very strong technical people and also some good financial people on the board. But really our team on the right-hand side, we have a very strong CFO, very experienced, strong first on corporate development with a background in broking and in the mining industry as well, which is important. And then in country, we have a very Finnish dominant team. Jukka is our managing director, so he understands how to work in Finland. He knows all the right contacts to have in Finland, whether it be drilling contractors at the government, or just how to, sit down with the locals and discuss about what we're doing and explain what we're actually doing to make sure we've got that social license to operate. And then we have a team of very strong Finnish geologists led by an English lady, Dr. Charlotte Seabrook, who joined us in June of 2018, and she's been instrumental in really, delivering and implementing this commercial exploration that we're doing. Her previous to this, she was at Newcrest in West Africa. She was behind the Segele discovery, which is in Roxgold now, which is turning out to be a fantastic discovery as well. I think along with her and we also have a lot of contacts in the industry, and we were able to attract some fantastic advisors to this company, which they've certainly helped us develop our overall strategy and approach to what we're doing, and helped us with that exploration. But it's about marrying those guys and our internal team, and that's obviously the driver for the success. So capital structure, you can obviously look at this on a Bloomberg screen or alternative, but the very simple share structure, 164 million shares out these days. We have some warrants that are well in the money through Agnico that if they exercise those they add about another 5% to their position at $1 a share. Those came as the financing in February. And cash today is the order of about $30 million. You can find a last reported cash and cash from funding that we did in July of this year. You see the shares have done incredibly well this year. That's all really been driven by the discoveries we're making, and certainly I think it's people. I got asked on another call the other day about whether it was all too late to look at Rupert Resources, but I encourage people to keep looking, because we're really at the beginning of this process, really just very early stages, 18 months into our regional exploration program, and you can say we're just scratching the surface, but we've been very successful so far, but I look forward to some more success in the future. So getting into the projects and the project itself, and really we're just going to focus on our Pahtavaara project here up in northern Finland. The center image there is a map of the area. You can see our mill, so it says the Pahtavaara mill, very large land package. It's 40 kilometers east to west, that land package. Area 1, Rupert says, that's where we've been making a number of these discoveries. So we'll talk a lot about that in a further few slides. We have another project near the town of Kittila there called Hirvi. We have a discovery there as well. And we also have on here the Kittila mine, which is Agnico Eagle's mine, which is about 65 kilometers from our mine as the crow flies. But really the other element on there is all that infrastructure. So our team live in the town of Sodankylä. Kittila team lives in the town of Kittila and Circa. And it is an easy area to operate because all that infrastructure, other than I guess mining and exploration, the other two main industries here are forestry. This area is all commercially forested, and then commercial reindeer herding. But it's just a very easy area to get around to access our projects. You'll see our Area 1 projects there. They're just 5 kilometers away from the main road between Sodankylä and Kittila, for instance. So this just is a bit about our targeting and ranking, and this is what's very important. I mentioned about fund management and assets. So if you look at each of those, I guess their targets or potential discoveries on this slide, think about those as potential assets or stocks in the portfolio. It's about the work that we're doing all the time ranking those targets, deciding which should have more meters drilled on it. You can see the meters drilled against it, and ultimately more investment to move them up through that triangle, to move them from the early reconnaissance stage through target testing, becoming advanced targets when we really start putting a lot of drill meters in them to generate the resources and then the reserves, ultimately, so they can then be turned into mines of the future. But if you were to step back 18 months, 2 years ago from here, when we just started out on this exploration, we just had that Pahtavaara mine where we've been very successful in already demonstrating growth in resource, but none of those other targets or assets in the second half in the lower half existed. So they're all coming through pretty quickly, and I guess Rupert Resources, I'd say what's important for us, we can work through targets quickly, prioritize where we should be spending more money, and move things up the curve very quickly and efficiently. So I'm not going to go into too much geological detail. What I'm just going to do is give you a short history of how we come to make these discoveries, and what's the process going forward and the strategy going forward from there to carry on repeating that process, which we aim to do. This is just an image of some work we did back in 2018. We brought in a very well-regarded structural geologist to help us with an interpretation here. We had some reasonable geological information for the Geological Survey of Finland. I guess a point on that, Finland only joined the EU in 1995, so it was only really open to international companies to explore from that point onwards. So as I said, the government had done some fantastic work, collected a lot of data, but really been very little commercial exploration and very little work beyond the, I guess, relatively easy identifiable deposits, things that were found because they outcropped, like Pahtavaara, things like Withall that were discovered because they were cutting a road through and they found some gold in the road cuttings, and then obviously things that obviously outcrop as well. So, but what we wanted to do was sort of reset to zero, take all that information. We built a big new geological map over 10,000 square kilometers, so 100 kilometers by 100 kilometers, and see whether the license, which is outlined in red in the image on the left, that we acquired as a company, had all the geological ingredients or elements that you're looking for making discoveries. So, there's a comparison here with the license on the left with a well-known part of the world geologically, and certainly in the gold industry, just north of Kalgoorlie in Western Australia, called the Scotia-Canona Dome. Outside of that, you've got very large mines like Canona Bell, KB on that map, Paddington, marked with a P, and obviously then Kalgoorlie and the super pit. But one of those elements is big Archean domes. We have a very similar one into the north, and call it granite core domes in this image. And then we have a lot of these structural duplex corridors leading away from there. And those settings are very important, because unless you have the right geological setting, you haven't really got a chance of finding a deposit of scale or a gold deposit of scale. And I'll keep on coming back to that point about scale and strategy, finding deposits that really matter, both to the gold industry as a whole, but to equity investors, but also to unlocking value through equity. So then take us a year forward. This is another map done in summer of 2019, put together by another well-known structural geologist called Dr. Dave Selly. And so he came up, as well known to Charlie Seabrook, and helped us again focus on this exploration, build up another geological model of this area and help us evolve that, the work by Brett, and help with our targeting again. So as you see on here, there's a bunch of gold circles that you can see there. They are all targets. Now, if I was to put them all on the map, it wouldn't be a very clear map, because we've got about 27 targets these days on this license area. But the one point I want to focus is where it says Area 1. You can see on there towards the left-hand side, towards the west of our license area. Now, between Area 1 and where it says Pahtavaara Mine and Mill, there are some large black lines on the map. These are large domain bounding structures. So really there's a 20-kilometer long structural corridor there. That is the focus of, or is the main focus of our exploration. And within that, Area 1 is about 5 kilometers of that, which has really been the area that we've explored more extensively to date, although we've still got a lot more work to do there. But we still see a lot more opportunity beyond what I'm going to talk to you about in Area 1. So just keep that in mind when you're sort of looking at the company as a whole. We have our Pahtavaara mine and mill, we have our Area 1, but then we still have in the order of 300 square kilometres of licence that we still haven't spent a lot of time covering off, and that's opportunity for the future. So then shrinking in again, you can see the red box on the map on the top right hand side. That is this Area 1, and within it now quite a busy geological map, quite a lot of detail in there. But to summarise it down, all the lines running north-south are created by using a sampling method called base of till, where we had a challenge here because this entire area is covered with between 10 and 20 metres of glacial till. So there's no outcrops, you can't walk up and take a rock sample, chip a rock sample off an outcrop and make your discoveries that way. We were attracted to this region because of the geophysics that we had a lot of detailed work done, and then our interpretation of that and the structural model for it. And I guess some very, very limited outcrop information, but really building up that structural image of what could be here. So then all those north-south lines that I've talked about, they're all these base of till lines. So it's a machine goes along, drills a hole 10 or 20 meters deep, takes a sample of the bedrock interface, and gives you the geochemistry at that point. So we do that over these structural areas we've identified. And we started off here by 1 kilometre line spacing. The image you're looking at is about 5 kilometres apart. So imagine just lines literally a kilometre apart, so really wide spaced. But over key features. And we started that work in late 2018, early 2019. And by March of that year, we identified a number of anomalies, which we then took one drill rig and drilled just 4 holes, one where it says Haina North, one where it says Haina Central, and 2 where it says Haina South. And from nothing to drilling those 4 holes, and those first 4 holes, 3 of them hit what could be classified as potentially economic style of mineralization, both for gold and copper actually at Haina Central. So it was a phenomenal success, early stage proof of concept, I call it, for the approach that we were taking. Now step forward to today. There's over 11,000 points of base of till. You can see there's quite a lot of data on the image there. All those, anything that's sort of a yellow or an orange or a purple dot on there is an anomaly. So there's a huge amount of anomalies that some of them are tested, some of them we haven't. And then all the triangles or the diamond shapes on there are obviously some of the drill holes we've done. So we've gone from drilling 500 meters to drilling about 20,000 meters there now over this area. And that's taken our discovery total from just Haina North, Central and South, up to then adding Island North, then Saita, and then most importantly, and what really the market's got very excited about, and we as a company are incredibly excited about, is the Ikari discovery on the south side there. So before we go to, there's a lot more work to do here. Watch the space for more work and hopefully more discoveries in this area. Yeah, but without further ado, I'll go to talk about this Ikari discovery, which is very important. So over the last 4 months or so, we've been putting out a series of new drill holes into this Ikari discovery. The first 2 of those were holes 38 and 42 in a program, and they were 54 meters at 1.5 grams and 137.8 meters at 1.8 grams. So very, very long intercepts, broad grade, very exciting in this area. So we've made some very interesting discoveries and other things, but these really stood head and shoulders above the others. Our whole strategy as a team, exploration team, is to find these deposits of scale. And when I talk about that, I'm talking about deposits that have the potential to be 2, 3, 4 million ounces. The sort of mines that can produce 200,000 ounces a year. The sort of things that really are, the bread and butter of our larger peer group companies and the leading companies in this sector. Very long life, high quality, high returning assets. It's always that holy grail of this industry to find a gold mine of this type. So they were very encouraging first couple of holes that we released those in May. We only drilled those in April of this year. We followed that up by going 450 meters to the east, and we drilled holes 59 and 61, and then one of those 59 is shown on the right-hand section below. We had 15 grams over 13 meters in that one, and hole 61 had about 47 meters at 4 grams, so very good intercepts, but 450 meters away from the first one. So we felt that it gives a lot of confidence that the structure was broad, it was going to have some length to it, and the geochemical anomaly that we could see in the geophysics was all tying in. Since July we've been back drilling there continuously, initially with one rig, and now we've moved that up to 3 rigs at the moment. And you see some of the other intercepts we put out. So they're really, I think we started off just trying to understand each the ends, and we're slowly working towards the middle to try and understand this deposit, and then move towards testing further extensions to the east. But some spectacular drill results, I guess real highlights on this image. Hole 69 and that western cross section there, 3 grams over 171.2 meters, just better grade, longer intervals. And next to that, 200 meters at 1.5 grams. And next to that, hole 70, 143 meters at 2 grams. A lot of these holes are ending in mineralization. So, that why is that? It's not that the guys are doing a bad job. It's because they're drilling through these large structural zones. Then they think, okay, well, it started to look, slightly less deformed. The alteration is slightly less. Let's pull the hole at that point in time. But as you'll see with time, we're extending these holes further and further. So those holes were released in September, and then just over a week ago, we announced some further holes in the eastern side here. Again, is absolutely spectacular holes, 167 meters and 4.2 grams. So the grade up, another 30% from our best grade that we had before that. And then we have a scissor hole there, literally, another, that's 65 meters at 3.6 grams. So very continuous mineralization. We are not talking here about intervals that are just dominated by one high grade hit that have been smeared over a long interval. Very continuous, good mineralization widths. Obviously with that, we're excited about the results, and I understand why, people can get excited about them. So it is just a table of those results. I think it's, you can see really through time, the releases have been coming out since May, June, August, obviously October, and you just look at some of the grades on the right hand side, they're probably improving over time. The widths are definitely we're beginning to understand this system better, and I think it's important that people, we're really at a very early stage in this. As you can see, we've only actually released in the order of 19 holes, and we have we're drilling at this point in time between 3 and 4 holes a week on top of that. So plenty more information to come, and as we move on to that, it's an important time. But before I leave this slide, obviously Ickery is very exciting, but if you go back a couple of slides and retrace, you'll see that we made 6 discoveries, and so we'll be going back to our Heine Central target, our Heine South target, our Heine North targets and Island North targets to test those targets further, but also we'll be carrying on testing for new discoveries beyond the 6 we've already made. So whilst a lot of excitement over what we've achieved so far, I think for us there's still a lot more work to do. Keep heads down, get on with it, and hopefully we'll be able to demonstrate more discoveries over the months ahead. So stepping back then, that's our regional exploration, and really what I guess has been sort of the fascinating excitement in the market in the last few months. But I just want to remind people that we also own a mine. So this is exploration we've been doing at the mine over the last few years, really trying to understand it better. So the Pahtavaara mine had a number of owners. It's quite a small mine, but when I went there as a fund manager, still looking at this project with the shareholders, my takeaway was that it was a very interesting deposit, but it was very poorly understood. No one could really tell me why the gold was there, where you'd go looking for the next, part of the deposit. And so when I joined, I was like, okay, we've got a huge amount of information. Let's, really do some work on this. It's quite a structurally complex mine, but most gold deposits are structurally complex when you get down to the detail. So again, systematically work through the data, start testing some new geological models for the deposit, start testing, where should we go next? And that's really what we've been doing over the last couple of years, just small drill programs trying to test it whilst we've also been doing this regional work. What's exciting now though, I'm just going to show you a brief image of this. The old mine on this image you can see is the old DB and Samurai zones, lots of drill holes, there's open pits and underground. And the underground development here goes down to 450 meters below surface, which gives us a great opportunity to work from because there's all that sunk capital and access available. So I'm just going to show you one area on this called where it says T-vein to surface and down plunge. It's a new zone on the south side of the mine. Well, new in some ways, but you'll see it was partly mined by the previous operators. So here's that image, just as a long section here, looking at the mine. You can see a bit of the open pit, you can see some of the underground infrastructure. And there's two areas there, towards the bottom and towards the top left, with a small amount of mining by previous operators. But their interpretation was that those zones continued, I guess, down the page towards the southwest, so from top right to bottom left. And so they felt that was the plunge direction. But the work we've been doing on interpretation and some of the drilling we've been doing, where it says had that whole 120350 on this image, 4 meters at 9 grams. That had started to show that maybe we had the potential that there was more continuity in the grade and the plunge direction actually going a lot shallower area where it's shaded in beige there, this interpreted and validated trend of mineralization. And so that has really only come about this year, and that really has the potential now to make this deposit open for a lot more resource development or resource drilling and resource increases. So to put in perspective, when we acquired the asset, it had a resource of about 150,000 ounces. We increased that in 2018 to about 500,000 ounces, with 474,000 ounces at 3.2 grams. And we're now just beginning to start thinking about, okay, well, let's go on that next drilling stage to try and see if this theory is correct and we can extend these zones between, fill in these gaps. Then we can see a substantial, hopefully a substantial lift in those resources too. So it's not just the mine. Obviously, I talked about the 20-kilometer strike between, I guess, close to the mine and Area 1. There's also a whole exploration district still to be worked on just around the mine. And through all the work we've been doing in the mine, we've begun to understand where could be the potential areas to explore just near to the mine as well. So we have other targets, literally surrounding the Pahtavaara mine itself. So we'll begin to work on those over this winter and into next year as well. So just obviously we've talked a lot about exploration and drilling holes and I guess that part of the business that I guess is obviously from the outside a big part of what you see and hear about, certainly in the markets. But I think it's important to understand, and certainly again as an ex-fund manager, is that it's all very well making the discoveries, but if you haven't so many other things that can come along and really take over the value of the equity, or if you don't manage other things in the company. And obviously the key things there, it's about having a social license to operate. It's about really understanding all your local community and doing that, which is incredibly important, because when you're making, aiming to make significant discoveries, you are ultimately going to potentially have a significant impact in that community in which you're operating, and you're trying to make that as a positive an impact from day one all the way through, and trying to explain to them to understand the process that you're going through and what you're doing. And obviously then on the environmental side, we own a mine, So we did continuous monitoring there, but right from the get-go, as soon as we started exploring, we went and did environmental baseline surveys before we even started doing any exploration, just to understand the environment in which we're operating. We're fortunate we're not in an area of any restricted land use environmentally. It's mostly actively forested areas. So obviously that certainly helps. There's no restrictions in place, but it's despite that, you've still got to make sure that you understand the environment you're in and understand what potential effects you might have on the environment as you go forward, and manage that process at all times. And then there's the whole permitting. We have a very active relationship with the permitting authorities and the government, and that helps by having that mine site as well, because we can sit in dialogue with them about that asset itself. So just summing up, I hope this has been very interesting for you to learn a little bit about Rupert Resources. The key takeaway, we had some fantastic success at Area 1, and there's obviously a strong focus on Ickery, but also this whole structural trend going between Ickery and right back up towards the mine. That whole structural corridor, is still a lot more potential we see there. With our ongoing drilling, hopefully make some new discoveries and show that potential there. But also, that over the next 9 to 12 months, it's absolutely key for us to demonstrate the size and scale of the discoveries we've already made. So we'll be moving forward, as fast as possible to demonstrate the actual size and resource potential of things like Ickery and Heine Central and Heine South over the next 9 to 12 months. We will carry on that regional exploration. We have this large land package, and you'll see us continuing on that base of till and geophysics and all the things that enabled us to make the discoveries we have. That carries on in the background. And then there's the mine. Obviously, I mentioned a bit about that. We'll be doing some more drilling there. In this T-zone, NFE, Carolina, you hear about that. We've had some spectacular drill results in the mine. It has. Our best one was 5 meters at 220 grams. So it does have the potential to deliver some fantastic results. And so we will be doing more work there and more work nearby. Obviously, to do that, we've got to be well funded. We are very strong funded well funded at the moment. Our last funding was in July, and we raised 25.6 million Canadian dollars at $3.20 a share. So we've got drill programs underway. We've been putting out results pretty regularly since we started back in July. There is no impediment to just really drilling all the way through the winter and through next summer. And so, we don't expect a let up in that. So expect news flow to come as results are coming out. Sort of hopefully at least once a month, we'll be able to put out updates on our exploration programs and updates on the company as we bring these projects forward and demonstrate the potential of those. So with that, all a bit rushed to get through there, but thank you very much for taking the time to look at this presentation and listen to me talk about it. Our contact details for myself, James Withall, and Thomas Credlin, after corporate development, are on this slide here. And you can feel free to email us and get in contact or visit our booth at the conference. It'd be great to hear from you. So thank you very much, and look forward to hearing from you in the future. Goodbye.